Hey, it's Chris with PhotoDabbler.com. In this video, we're going to make a sports poster. You can use this for, basketball, football, baseball, volleyball, whatever sports you're going to make a poster for. So let's go ahead and get started, and we're just going to click on New File. And we're going to make this I normally make them 16 by 20s. So 16 by 20, you can make whatever size you're gonna make. Okay, 16 by 20, 300 resolution RGB, black background, which will change, color profile sRGB, and we'll hit create. That will open up a new document. Okay, so from here we are going to just start by making a little bit of a background. Alright, so our background layer is just this black color. We're going to change this to a gradient. So click on your gradient editor, and then we can go to basics. We can go to basics. Sometimes my Photoshop doesn't work very well. Okay, so let's change these stops. So click on your first stop, and I think I want to do maybe a reddish color here. I think this will work, and then we'll just kind of drag it around a little bit and then click on Dither, and we'll hit OK. Actually, let's put this red at the top. Okay, that will be that. So this is going to be our background color. This mask, we can delete it. We don't need the layer mask, and we no longer need this black layer, so we can delete that as well. Alright, so now we're going to just make a few different shapes. So we'll click on our shape tool, grab a rectangle tool, and make sure it's on shape and not path or pixels. The fill color doesn't matter. We're going to change that. So let's just drag out a rectangle like so. And I think this will work. We'll go ahead and hit OK or enter. And that is our rectangle. So let's skew this a little bit. So Control or Command T, right click, and then go to skew. And then we're going to drag on this handle here, but we're going to hold Alt so it does both sides, like this. And then we're just going to move it up a little bit, like so. Okay, so that's rectangle number 1. Let's make a copy of that. Control or Command J, Control T. We're going to make this one smaller. So if you hold down Alt or Option, we'll drag it in like so, and we'll just kind of bring it down to about this area here. And we're just going to select both of these and put them in the center. So hit your move tool, make sure you're on align to canvas, and then hit center. So we're centered up like that. Okay, so our bottom gradient, or our bottom rectangle, needs to be underneath this rectangle, or things aren't going to look right. So we're going to click on our big one, and we're just going to add some gradients and a drop shadow to this. So gradient overlay, it should have our same one still selected, but let's change the angle to maybe like a 70. Does that look like what we want? I think. And drag it around a little bit to how you want it. We'll go ahead and hit OK after we add a small drop shadow. So the drop shadow's on there. Let's reset this to default. Let's bring our opacity all the way up, and we'll play with the size and spread a little bit, and then we'll back off our opacity to about like so. Go ahead and hit OK. And then I want to apply this same effect to this bottom one. So if you just hold down Alt or Option and drag your little effects down, it'll put it right on there. Okay, so this is the start of our poster. I'm going to make another copy of this rectangle. So you can either hold down Alt and drag up, and it'll make a copy of it. You can hit Control J. However you make copies is fine. Control or Command T, and now we want to hold down Alt and scale this in to about the same size as that bottom rectangle. Okay. And then we want to hit Control T and move it up to about, so it's off the screen, like so. Alright, so this is the basis of our background. Okay, I think this gradient fill, let's play around with this a little bit. Let's drag it down a little bit more, like so. We'll go ahead and hit OK. Alright, so all of these layers is going to be our background. So we can click on the bottom one, hold down Shift, click on the top one, and hit our group folder, and just call this BG or background, however you want to do it. Okay, so that is that much of it. Now let's start adding some elements. I want to add a rectangle about right here. So let's grab our rectangle tool once again, and it can still be on the white, it's fine. And I'm going to drag out a rectangle about like so, and we'll go ahead and hit enter. That is where we want it, and I'm just going to go ahead and change this to black. The color doesn't matter because we're going to use this for a mask. Okay, so we'll call this rectangle mask, and I want to go ahead and add an image into here. I have a basketball court that I actually made on Midjourney. Typed in basketball court with lights. We'll go ahead and place this in there. Okay, so this is the image that Midjourney made. It's actually really cool. Hold down Alt. We're going to scale it up a little bit so it covers the whole rectangle. And we'll go ahead and hit enter. And then we need to place this image into the rectangle, so just right click and we'll just hit create clipping mask, and it's in there. And Control T, let's move it over just a little bit like so. Enter, enter, and our image is in there. I think that will look just fine like that. Okay. We could bring down the opacity a little bit, maybe like so. Alright. Okay, so that's that. Now let's add some more stuff. We want these next lines to be behind this, so we're going to create a layer underneath this stuff. So actually we don't need to hit new layer, we can just hit rectangle tool again, and then this time we're going to do no fill, and then we're going to change the stroke to white, and we can leave it at white and that's at 15 points, or we can adjust this however we need it to be. So I think about like so will work. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, I think this will work, but I only want this stroke to be to here, so we need to add a layer mask. Let's grab our polygonal lasso tool like so. We'll make the screen a little bigger, and we'll just go. Whoa, I don't know what that was. Maybe like so. And we'll just drag down around it because I don't want any of that other stuff. Make sure you're on your mask. Make sure you have black as your foreground, and you can just hit Alt Delete or Option Delete, and that will mask out that part of it. Okay, so that looks fine and dandy. Okay, so we have that. That's just going to be a border. Alright, now we want to add some more lines to this, so let's do a new layer. Let's grab a pen tool, and fill is 0, stroke is still on 15. Let's make this just a little bit bigger. Hold down your space bar, we can move it up here. And I think I want to start about right here. If you hold down Shift, it'll make a straight line. We'll make a point there, and then make a point about right there. I think that works. Okay, now let's drag up here, and there's going to be some stuff here, but we're just going to do our lines here first. So make a point here, hold down Shift, click, and then maybe about like so, enter. Okay, I think that'll be okay, and then I'm going to do one more here, hold down Shift, hold down Shift, like so, and I think this one, let's make this a little bit thicker, like a 18, enter. Okay, alright, so that's all our little background lines. I think that will do it for that. Okay. Now, let's go up top. So we're going to go on top of everything now. Let's grab a rectangle tool. And this time, no fill and a stroke of white, but let's do our stroke a little bit smaller, like a 5. And then if you hold down Shift, it'll drag out a rectangle. Okay, we'll go ahead and hit Enter. And now what we're going to do is hit Control or Command J. That's going to make a copy. Then we're going to hit Control or Command T and move it down about like so. Alright, so now that we have that, we can duplicate this whole process by hitting Control Shift Alt T or Command Shift Alt T and just go down and maybe about this many times. So we have this. Now we want to merge all these together. So we'll click on the very first one we made, hold down Shift, click on the top one, right click, merge shapes, and now we have this. Now we can make a copy, Control J, Control T, hold down Shift and go to use your right arrow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 maybe. Okay, and then we can just hit Control Shift Alt T again, Control Shift Alt T again, Control Shift Alt T again, or Command Option Shift T for Mac. I think that's how you work it. Okay, so these are our little rectangles. So we're going to merge all these together. Right click, merge shapes, and now it's one shape. Okay, so let's place these. Let's hit Control T. Let's place these right here, like so. And then maybe let's make a copy of these. Control J, Control T. And let's move them over like so. Okay, I think that's what we want, and we'll go ahead and merge these together. Okay, now we want to kind of center it up here, so just kind of use your arrow keys. You hit Control T and use your arrow keys right and left to put them like so. And that looks pretty close. We'll go ahead and hit Enter. Now on this one, I think I want to use maybe like a gradient on this one as well. So let's just double click on that. It'll open up our layer styles and gradient overlay. And I think that's what we want. Maybe we'll move it down like so. I think this is good enough. And there we have that. Now let's go ahead and make a copy of this. So Control J, Control T. Now I want these down here, like so. I'm going to hold Shift and drag these out, like so. We'll hit Enter, Enter, Enter. And now on this one, I want this underneath everything. So Control Shift left bracket will move them all the way down. And we need to move it up one more above the background layers. Let's see here. Above the gradients only. Okay, now it's behind everything else. Okay, so these are just little, I don't even know what you call it, just little background stuffs. We'll call them background stuffs. How about that? Okay, now let's make some circles. So let's grab a new layer. Let's grab our ellipse tool. And we're still going to use the no fill and a stroke. Let's make these about a 7. Enter. And then if you hold down Shift while you're dragging, it will make a perfect circle. So we have this circle. We're going to hit Control J, Control T, hold down Shift. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 16, 17. So we moved it down 17. And then we can just do the old Control Shift Alt T, Control Shift Alt T. And I just want these to be in this little area right here. Maybe one more, like so. And I want to merge all these together. So the very first ellipse, hold down Shift, that will select all of them, and you can hit Control or Command E to merge them all together. And there we have that. Now we're going to make a copy. Control J, Control T, hold down Shift, use your right arrow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 maybe again. Okay, and then Control Shift Alt T, Control Shift Alt T. So there's 4. Alright, so we'll merge all these together again. Select the bottom one, select the top one, Control E. Now we have our ellipses here. And Control or Command T, let's move these up a little bit. And I want these kind of in the center. Kind of to where it looks like it's centered up, like so. Okay, I think that is good, and we're going to leave these white for now. We may come back to that. Alright, now I think I want a couple other rectangles. Maybe one here and one here, or one underneath. So we need to, if you hit your move tool, we'll click on this rectangle, because we need to go underneath it. Which one is this one? That's the squares. Alright, so I want to be above those. So hit a new layer. And we could just do a rectangle tool. Let's change our fill back to white and our stroke to no. And we'll just drag out a rectangle about like this. And Control T, let's hold down Alt or Option, or after we hit Skew, right click Skew, hold down Alt or Option, and I want it to be like this, and then we'll just move it up like so. Alright, and then we will grab our layer effects on that one. You know what, maybe let's do this as, let's turn the gradient overlay off. Let's do a color overlay, and let's pick this color. What color do we want to use? I think it needs to be in the red zone. We're just using a lot of red on this, and you can pick whatever color you want. I think that'll be okay. We'll go ahead and hit OK on that one. And let's make a copy of this now. Control J, we'll hit Control T. Now let's right click this and rotate it 90 degrees counterclockwise. And we'll drag this over maybe like so. Let's see what it looks like. Control right, bracket up. Okay, I don't like that, so we'll delete it. And we need to be we need to be under this one. Okay, so let's do a new layer here. Let's just grab a rectangle. We'll do this a little bit differently. We'll grab a smaller rectangle like so. Enter, and then we'll hit Control T, right click, Skew, hold down Alt or Option. I kind of want to match that angle. How's that look? Let's see. I think that looks okay, but it needs to move out a little bit. Okay, I think that's good, and then we're just going to make a copy of this. Control J, Control T, and hold down Shift, and we'll drag this one down to this one, and then we need to make it go under these things. So if you just hit Control or Command in your left bracket, it will move it down one layer at a time till it's underneath. Okay, that looks pretty good. we'll do that. Now let's just make some weird lines. Alright, new layer, grab a brush tool. So B for your brush tool. And I have these, let's see, where was these? These were in the winter 2023 brush pack that you can get from Adobe. They're free if you go to Window, Brushes, Get More Brushes right here. Click on that and that will open up in a new tab, a new website, and then you can get these same brushes if you want them. It's just the winter 2023 pack. And all I'm going to do is, the size is 300, it's on white, flows, everything, and I'm just going to drag down 2 lines like so, okay? And then I want to put a gradient overlay on this. So double click on it, and we're going to use that same red gradient that we've been using. Okay, but I want this darker stop. We have to make it a little bit brighter. Maybe around this area. So it's 7C534E if you're doing the same colors, and then this red was C53, C2A. We'll go ahead and hit OK, hit OK, hit OK, and then we're just going to rasterize it. Right click, rasterize layer style, go into filter, blur, motion blur, and let's put this on 90. Crank it up, 2000. I think we're good there, but I want to make a copy of this. So once this is done doing the motion blur, we'll just hit Control J, Control T. Let's move it over a little bit so it kind of blends together like that, and then we'll go ahead and merge these together. So click on both of them, right click, merge layers. So we have that. Now we want to, let's see, Control T, let's see how far these go down. Let's go ahead and bring it up to about here. We could skew it, right click, skew, hold down Alt Option, just so the angle kind of matches down here. Let's make it look bigger. I think that's okay. That'll be okay. Alright, and then up top here we just want to mask it out. So grab a layer mask, and you can do this with just a rectangle marquee tool. Whoops. Maybe about like so. Make sure you have black selected, make sure you have your mask selected, and then Alt Delete or Option Delete. And then Control or Command D. That does that. Now I think I want to move this over a little bit. So Control T. Let's move this over so those white lines show, and it's over top of this a little bit. Alright. So now that we have all our background, basically we just have to add, we can add some text, and then we have to add our player. Okay, so let's hit our move tool. This little guideline is bugging me, so we'll drag it out of the way. And yeah, okay. So file, place embedded, and you just drag in whatever image you're going to use. Alright, so once you have your image that you're going to use, if you want to remove the background, you can do, it's a smart object, so you would have to rasterize it to use the background remover. I'm just going to go ahead and rasterize layer. I don't want to say I don't use remove background a lot, but I don't. On this one, it'd actually be easier just use a magic wand tool, and let's take our tolerance down to about 20. We'll click here, and then we will make another selection probably. Let's see here what it does. Okay, so it made a pretty good selection, but we need to add this area here. So if you hold down Shift and click in here, it'll select that area. Now we have our Actually, it's good enough for a tutorial, but you want to make sure that you cut it out nice and neat. So to I gotta undo this. Control D, because I have sample all layers on. I don't want sample. It was picking up this. I just want the white out of this. So hold down Shift. Okay, and now we want to make a mask out of it. So if we hit mask, it's not going to work correctly. So if we hit Alt or Option and then click the mask, it cuts them out. So we have this the player ready to go like so. And I'm going to just right click on the mask and hit Apply Layer Mask because I don't need any of that other stuff. Okay, so Control T, let's move him over just a little bit like so. And that's exactly how we want him. Now let's add a little bit of text. Okay, so I want to add his name. So let's go to our type tool, T on your keyboard if you want, or just click it. And now the font I'm using for this is called A Atmospheric. I'll leave a link in the description below. I got this from DaFont. It's 100% free font to use. Okay, so we'll just click. We won't double click. We'll just click on our canvas, hit backspace, and I'm going to type out his last name, and we're just going to say it's Williams. I have no idea what it really is. And hit enter. Now Control or Command T. Let's scale this up to about 3,500. And we're going to have to resize this anyways, because I'm not sure exactly. Alright, this probably will work. Now let's add some styling to this. So double click, I'm going to add that reddish gradient that we've been using. So just click on your gradient overlay, and it is not how we want it. Let's change our angle to 90, that would probably help. And let's scoot it up a little bit. I think I want this bottom to be obviously darker. So we'll click on that color stop and then just drag this back down to about where we want it. About right there looks good. Okay, and then we can just kind of scooch it up a little bit like so. And I think this is going to work. Now let's add some strokes. So click on your stroke, and I have this, let's make it all the way white. And okay, and it's on the outside. Let's make it about a 10. Maybe a little bit more, maybe about a 14. Okay, I think this looks okay. Now let's add one more stroke on top of that. So if you don't have all these strokes in there, just hit plus. But I'm going to add another stroke, and then this one is going to be black. And let's just make this about a 7. 7, okay, yeah. Okay, and now let's add some inner shadow. So reset the default on the inner shadow. Let's bring our opacity all the way up so we can kind of see what's happening. And then we can play around with the size a little bit and the choke a little bit. And I think that'll work. And then we'll just drag our opacity down a little bit like so. Okay. Alright, so now here is one issue that you may run into. So I'm going to hit Control or Command T. And let's move this over a little bit so we can kind of see what's happening. I want to rotate this text. Okay, so the only thing is if you rotate this text with this, the gradient is going to rotate with it. So I'm going to convert this into a smart object. So if we right click, convert to smart object, all of the layer styles that we just did will actually stay exactly how it looks. Alright, so if you don't do this step, you may run into some issues. So convert to a smart object, and if we need to change the text or the font later, we can just double click on the smart object and it will open up a new window, and then we can go in here and change all these effects. Okay, so you're not losing the editability by converting it to a smart object. It just makes it easier for the layer styles to work out correctly. So Control or Command T, and we're going to right click on this, and we're going to rotate this 90 degrees clockwise. So it's going to be like so, and then we're going to drag it about like this, and then I'm going to hold down Alt and scale it up just a little bit like so. Enter. Okay, now we need to move this underneath the player, so the player is right underneath it, so we can just drag him like so. And there you have that. Now, we want to do his first name. So I want his first name to be in this area, so we'll just click here, and we'll type out Jason, or whatever his name is. Double click, and since we did those effects, they all should still be jiving. Okay, but we will have to make them smaller because the font's going to be smaller. Let's make this a 10, and on the black one, let's change that to like a 4. We'll hit OK. Now we'll hit Control T and hold down Alt and make it a little bit bigger. Maybe like so, and then I just want this in the center of that rectangle like so. Enter. Okay, I think we're getting close. We're getting close. We need to add, let's add some more elements in here. So maybe some lines. So let's go add a new layer. Let's grab a brush tool and let's see here. I'll put a link for these brushes down in the description as well. But it's 66 long ink strokes Photoshop stamp brushes. These are from Envato Elements. We just kind of want to go and pick one. I think I like this one, and maybe let's squish it a little bit. Okay, I think this will work. We're going to leave it on white. Now, the only bad thing with this, I'm going to make it smaller, left bracket. The only bad thing about these brushes is they have a little bit of opacity to them. So to make it solid, you just kind of have to hit your mouse like 10 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And now it's a solid line. Okay, now I'm just going to make a copy, Control J, Control T, hold down Shift, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, enter, that looks fine, and then we'll Control Shift Alt T, Control Shift Alt T, about this many times like so. So we have 13 copies of that. Let's just merge all of these together. Right click, merge layers, where are you? Right here. And then let's go Control T, right click Skew, and then hold down Order Option, and we're just going to kind of match that angle, and then we'll just bring it down a little bit like so. Alright, so I think this is too much, so we're going to put a mask on it. Let's grab a mask, let's grab our marquee tool, rectangular, and we'll just go about cutting half of them off. Make sure black is your foreground, your mask is selected, Alt Delete, Control D, and then we can hit Control T and move these over like so, about like so. I think I'm going to do a mask on this side too. Let's go like this. Alt Delete, Control D. I don't know if I like these. Right click, Apply Layer Mask, Control J for a copy, Control T. Let's drag these up here like so. And then let's grab a layer mask again. Let's grab our marquee tool, and we'll just kind of go a little bit outside of the rectangle like so, and then Alt Delete, Control D, I don't know if I like those. I may delete those and do something else, but you can do it however you want. Okay, what else? We need some, let's go down into our background again. Let's see, which one is this one? Okay, let's go into our background. And then on our background, let's add a new layer above that. We're going to go into our brush tool again. So B for brush. And then let's grab some sort of dust brush. Okay, so if you don't have any dust brushes, there are some on that Get More Brushes trick I showed you, or these right here I got from Envato Elements. I'll put a link in the description for these as well. So Dust Brush 07, and this is going to be in white. And don't really pay attention to what's happening here. Just kind of randomly make some brush strokes, because all this is going to be is we're going to put this on a different blend mode, and it will just make kind of like some texture. Let's make this thing bigger because it's taking forever. It's kind of just going to do some texture to our background. Okay, so we have that. Something to this effect you can do. And then let's go filter, blur, Gaussian blur, Gaussian blur, however you say it. And we're just going to smooth it out just a little bit, maybe about 10 points. We'll hit OK. And then now, if we change this blend mode to like a soft light, and then bring our opacity down, it just kind of adds a little bit of texture like that. So I think this looks okay. Alright, now let's add some smoke behind the player. So find your player layer, go underneath it, and then add a new layer. And this is going to be some smoke behind him, like so. And then we're going to do that same trick. Filter, Gaussian blur. You can use the same one if you click that, or you can go to blur, Gaussian blur, and start over. Maybe make it a little bit 40-ish. Hit OK. And then we can also change this blend mode to something else too. Kind of scroll through your blend modes, because sometimes when you scroll through your blend modes, some really neat things happen that you wouldn't have thought of. I think probably soft light. Let's see. I think soft light, but I'm going to make a copy. Control J and then Control T, and we're going to move this copy up a little bit, like so. I think that looks good. But I think on the text, on the Williams, on the last name, let's double click on him and put a let's put a little drop shadow to it. Let's reset the default, crank your opacity all the way up so you can see what's going on. Okay, maybe about like this. Okay, so this is where we ended up: 48, 90 degrees, 69, 7, and 111. And this is all personal preference. We'll go ahead and hit OK. And that is good there. Now I think I want to do some other lines. Let's hit V for our move tool. Let's click on this rectangle. Is that the main one that we want? Yes. Okay, let's do this. Let's see what a stroke on this looks like. Okay, I think I like that, so we'll go ahead and leave that. Let's add, instead, let's just add let's do a rectangle again. Let's hold down Shift, let's make it a square. And we'll put it about right here. Let's add some gradient overlays to it again, same one. Yeah, let's do inner shadow. Hit OK. And then let's make a copy. Control J, Control T. Hold down Alt. Let's scale it down a little bit like so. And then on this one, double click. Let's make a drop shadow. Okay, I think that's good. Now let's just put his number here instead. So Control, let's hit a T. Let's do 32. Enter. Control T. Let's scale it up. Now, since we did all that weird stuff, we got to fix it. So let's go over to this and put on auto. Let's go to our VA and put on 0. Okay, now Control T again. Let's kind of center it up. That looks okay. And then we're going to drag those effects Alt and drag up. That will be our 32. And then on this one, we can just put a small stroke on it. Maybe let's do on the inside and see if that looks better. Okay, alright, so now that we have all these, let's put these in a group and we'll just call this number. Enter, Control T, let's drag this down. Like so. Let's move it over. Let's hit V for our move tool. Maybe about like that. I think this looks okay. You can add some more stuff here. I think this is kind of empty, this spot here. And these lines I don't really care for. I think I want to do these over. Maybe in just a regular straight lines instead of using the brush. But that is pretty much it, I think. I will actually leave a link to this template in the description box below. The only thing it will not have is this Adobe stock thing, because that is not mine to give away, so this will be deleted. And you can just put your player in here. Actually, I'll put a layer here, and I'll just say put player here. And we'll right click and turn it red so you can see it nice and easy. But that is it. That looks pretty neat. I think we'll call that good. We could add another line to connect these two rectangles if you wanted, or add some more circles and make them come this way. However you want to do it. But that is that. Now, you could do some other things too if you wanted to. I'm just kind of rambling on here. Let's add a hue saturation. Okay, now this is just something that I play with when I'm done doing a design and want to turn it into one color. Let's go saturation. Let's turn it all into whatever color we're going to do. Let's say we want it all to be this color. And obviously we don't want the player to be that color, so we can just grab our player and Control or Command J and then Control Shift right bracket. That'll bring them all the way up to the top. And that kind of controls the color of everything. So if you're going simple and you just want it one color, you have to watch some of the things like this. This background image is not, it's not happy about it. So you could just use the layer mask on that rectangle. But anyways, especially when you crank up saturation a lot. But you can play around with it however you want to do it. If you want to change all the colors at once, just add one all the way up to the top. I'm going to delete that. That will not be in the template. Alright. So that's that. If you want to add some texture on top of it, you can. I myself, I like a nice crisp and clean. That's just me. But anyways, this is how you do that. And you would just do file, save a copy, or file, save. If you want to save it as a template, just save it as a PSD. And then if you want to print it out, save it as a PNG and print it out. But that will be it for this one. Hope you liked this and learned something. If you did, please hit like and subscribe, and maybe leave a comment, say, hey, what's up, Photo Dabbler, and we will see you on the next one.